What if one man from the steppes could build the largest empire the world has ever seen? His name was Genghis Khan. Our story begins in 1162 in a place called Mongolia. No, not this Mongolia, this one. Back then, Mongolia was a land of rugged mountains, endless grasslands, and fierce tribes who lived as nomads, always moving, always fighting. It was a harsh life. And when Temüjin, our future hero, was born, no one thought he'd amount to much. Temüjin's childhood was tough. When he was just 9 years old, his father was poisoned by rivals. Soon after, his family was betrayed by another tribe and left without shelter in the freezing cold. Young Temüjin had to fight not only to survive, but to protect his family. As he grew older, he became known as a fierce warrior, a cunning strategist, and a bold leader. These skills helped him unite the Mongol tribes, but they also made him powerful enemies. In 1206, Temüjin rode into a meeting with rival leaders expecting to be arrested. But in a stunning move, he was proclaimed the universal ruler, Genghis Khan. From that moment, he set his sights on uniting all the nomadic tribes under his banner. He built a strong central government, appointed loyal generals, and created a professional army. With his power growing, Genghis Khan turned his attention to the riches of China and the lands beyond. He led his army across the Gobi Desert, defeated the Kara Kitai, and seized control of the Silk Road. This victory opened the door to the riches of China and set him on a collision course with the rest of Asia. Genghis Khan's armies were a study in speed, discipline, and ruthlessness. Whether it was his elite cavalry or his use of psychological warfare, the Mongols overwhelmed their enemies with efficiency. For example, once the Mongols laid siege to a city, they would send a letter to the governor telling him to surrender or face destruction. The letter would include the sounds of screams and the clatter of weapons to intimidate the defenders. But even with all their skill and cunning, the Mongols weren't invincible. In 1218, Genghis Khan's forces suffered their only major defeat when they attacked the well-defended city of Samarkand. Despite this setback, Genghis Khan went on to conquer most of Persia and push his empire into Eastern Europe. He died in 1227 while campaigning against the Western Xia dynasty. But by then, his empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, the largest continuous land empire in history. Yet Genghis Khan was more than just a conqueror. He kept the peace within his empire, promoted trade along the Silk Road, and allowed freedom of religion, which was unusual for his time. In fact, he was so tolerant that he hosted a kind of religious parliament where different faiths could discuss their beliefs freely. During his conquests, he kept detailed records and created a law code to govern his vast empire. Though many of his laws were brutal, such as the punishment for stealing, which was the death penalty, they did help bring stability to his domains. Furthermore, Genghis Khan was a patron of learning. He set up libraries, encouraged the translation of scientific texts, and invited scholars from across Asia to his court. However, he's best remembered for his military brilliance. Even today, his tactics are studied by military leaders around the world. After Genghis Khan's death, his empire was divided among his sons, but they continued his policy of conquest. His grandson, Kublai Khan, founded the Yuan dynasty and completed the conquest of China. Other descendants ruled vast parts of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. Genghis Khan's empire may have fallen apart in the 13th century, but its impact on the world was huge. It connected East and West in ways the world had never seen before, and it introduced Europe to new technologies and ideas through the Silk Road. In fact, Marco Polo, the famous Venetian merchant, visited Kublai Khan's court in the 13th century and wrote about the wonders he saw there. It's hard to overstate the impact of Genghis Khan and his descendants on world history. They changed the way armies fought, the way empires were built, and the way people thought about the world. So if you want to understand world history, you can't ignore the Mongols. Now check out the series in the description for more epic stories from history. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. See you next time.